please give this video a like and subscribe! Feed me now! I'm starving. Give me food! Don't make me ask again. Feed me, or else.
This is HBR News number 540, New AI to be trained on morality by a feminist, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everybody and welcome back to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all of the absurdities so that you're not consumed by it. I'm your host Brian, and I'm joined by, as always, my lovely co-hosts Hannah Wallen and Dr. Ranmercam.
Hello.
This week's yes, hello to you guys. On this week's HBR News, we're going to be talking about an upcoming documentary that's going to be on the manosphere, and yes, that includes MRAs. A philosopher, student, grad named Amanda Askell is going to be training the AI known as Claude. Spain is going to make men pay for women's periods and more, so stick around. It's going to be a good time. And
men already pay for women's periods.
All men pay for women's periods everywhere.
Yeah.
And and also be sure to consider joining us for the patron show. Did you guys know that Galentine's Day just passed? Of course you didn't, because you're bigots that only recognize Valentine's Day.
I'm gonna throw up now.
What?
I'm gonna throw up now. Jeez.
We're gonna be looking at this article. This is an old. This is not an old article. This is from this year, but there is a sort of meme holiday, I guess, called Galentine's Day, and it's basically where women celebrate the platonic relationships they have with other women, and they kind of put that on a level beyond Valentine's Day. It's just some capitalist holiday to sell cards, candy, and flowers. Galentine's Day is the real thing. So we're going to be looking at this one in the patron show, and we'll learn, what it is and how you celebrate it. It was on the 13th. It's the day before Valentine's. So you guys missed your chance, unfortunately, to partake in Galentine's Day. But if you want to join us for the patron show where we can sort of like do a belated Galentine's, then please consider joining us at in the Discord server by going to feedthebadger.com/subscribe. So you'll be able to watch all of the additional content. You'll be able to join the Discord. You'll be able to partake of lots of other activities. And we have groups, and Allison does shows. The patrons get to listen to them where she talks about media, and she turns it into a little podcast of her own with the listenators. And, you could do that too. So please go to feedthebadger.com/subscribe to join us. And of course, we are currently doing our monthly fundraiser. So feedthebadger.com/support if you want to support me and Hannah and Mike and those of us who, work, I think, pretty hard to make HBR happen, despite YouTube and the, big tech doing everything it can to suppress our voices. You guys are really the only means by which we can continue to do this work. But anyway, with all that said, and one last thing before we get into the stories, If you don't want to wake up one morning to find that our content has been yeeted from the internet, then go to badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. That is where all of the archived content lives. And someone just sent me a message the other day saying that they're still they're catching up on shows we did in 2023. I don't know how timely that is for them, but good on them. So like the fact that we still have it out there, I guess that's sort of like proof positive that this is necessary stuff. So anyway, with all that said, let us get into today's stories. So first, we're going to be looking at a new documentary that is coming out by Louis Theroux, which, I can pronounce. Louis Theroux's got a new Netflix documentary called Inside the Manosphere. This is the promotional imagery for said movie or documentary, which is about it's his first full-length feature on Netflix, clocking in at 90 minutes. He supposedly this advertised as a rare, no-holds-barred access to the ultra-masculine online world, hitting up spots like Miami, New York, and Marbella. Expect him chatting with big names like Sneeko, Myron Gaines of Fresh and Fit, somebody named H. Sticky Talkie, don't know who that is, Justin Waller, and Ed Matthews. Wow, no men's rights activists there, but he says guys pushing red pill takes on manhood, gender roles, and men's rights. It's all about how they're radicalizing dudes online, with Theroux diving deep into the ecosystem without quote unquote pulling punches. And let's look at the trailer because I have a teaser for it. So we're gonna look at the teaser for this, and I want to make sure that there's sound as well. So let's see.
I did a documentary today with this guy, Louis Theroux. Do you guys know who this is?
Louis Theroux.
Oh, shit. Is he gonna do a hit piece on me?
Careful of this fella, mate. Evil smile.
He's so woke, his wife makes him pee sitting down.
There was a funny moment where he's like, what do you think Sneeko's message is?
Do I sound like that?
Yes.
A little bit.
Oh, there's more, I think.
Jeez.
No, it's just a Netflix logo at the end. So, I just want to say before we get started here, I learned about this because the Tin Men was sharing it on X and said that he's a big fan of Louis Theroux and that this is like a necessary documentary to expose the sort of misogynistic parts of the manosphere so that, like us real MRAs can get real work done. And I just think he is completely fucking delusional if he thinks that guy is only going to go after the people that were advertising that trailer. They literally are going to go after MRAs, and he has a history. I'm sorry, I'm gonna rant a little bit. Louis Theroux has gone after masculinity in general in other documentaries as well. He's gone after MMA guys, the people that are into that stuff. I don't know what his beef is with men, but he has been doing this consistently. So you might say, like Night Motorcyclist just said in the chat, Sneeko is not manosphere. Yeah, that doesn't matter. You see, all of these guys, like Fresh and Fit guys, are like red pill dating guys. And Sneeko is just some like dissident. I don't even know what you would say he is. He's just like a
Sneeko
troll.
is a Muslim, by the way.
He is a Muslim, yeah.
Gonna go
so he's like
a
Muslim troll that basically like hangs around with groypers and stuff. But let me finish. But the point is, guys, Louis Theroux is going to make an association between whatever he considers to be the most radical parts of the internet that have the most clout. This is very important. He's not going to do this to Karen. He's not going to do this to Hannah. He's not going to do this to Paul or Mike, like Janice Fiamengo, any of those people. He's going to find the people that will frame the manosphere on the whole in the worst possible light and say that's the manosphere, and also include MRAs in that. And I'm making this point because too many people that are part of this space are like, well, we're not with those guys. No, you don't get it. We're going to be with those guys. Like, they're going to lump us in. In fact, it makes you think that people like, and I don't think it's true, but some people will say that guys like Andrew Tate or Sneeko or Fresh and Fit or the whatever podcast, like they're all kind of like a psyop to discredit the manosphere or like men's rights activists or whatever. That doesn't matter. We are the real enemy of these people, and guys like Sneeko and these other ones that appeared in the trailer, they're useful for that message, right? So don't think that this has nothing to do with us. That's all I'm saying. Don't for a second think that this has nothing to do with us. So yeah, anyway, that's the first story.
No, in fact,
I'll let you guys take it from there.
It's the opposite. It's not that it has nothing to do with us. We're the target, right? They will not look at us. They will not show us to people. They will not talk about us. And they won't talk about anybody who is actually part of the men's rights movement. Right? They won't even talk about men going their own way. They won't talk about, they probably won't even talk about tradcons. They'll mostly talk about pickup artists. And they might bring in the more dysfunctional end of incels, right? People who have been through enough or not had mentoring enough growing up that they haven't developed out of using violence against themselves or other people to deal with their issues, right? But they won't talk to any of us. They won't talk to anybody in the movement. And the reason is this. This has been done throughout history by propagandists in every country, every culture, going well back before the United States ever existed, well back before there was a political definition of the word feminism, whether, before there was anything called men's rights activism. In fact, before there was a parliamentary system, when somebody wanted to propagandize a group of people as scary and bad, they would find some other group of people that did bad things or scary things or just were distasteful. Like for the most part, you look at pickup artistry, it's mostly just distasteful. When you actually consider what they're doing, it's mostly dumbfuckery, right? It's not necessarily dangerous to anybody. Unless we're talking about stupid people, it might be dangerous to stupid people. But aside from that, they're not even a real threat to anybody, right? But you take the thing that people are going to find morally objectionable or scary or whatever, that you can put that out there, show that as the thing that makes them bad or scary, and then you associate it with the group that you want to demonize, and it doesn't matter if there's any association or not. When Christians first came to Europe, the pagan folk portrayed them as stupid, crazy, consorting with evil spirits, doing weird rituals out in the woods, having sex with donkeys and all kinds of stuff. And they portrayed them as connected to enemies, which to a degree they were, because they came from Rome. But when Christianity took over Europe, they did the same thing to the pagans and portrayed them as, consorting with evil spirits, performing weird naked rituals out in the woods with animals and everything else under the sun or the moon. And it was pretty much the same propaganda, right? When people wanted to demonize people who are gay, they equated them with pedophiles. Even though most pedophiles are straight, there are some that are gay. And so they would highlight that some pedophiles are gay, therefore gay people are dangerous, even though most pedophiles are straight. And of course, you leave out that last part. You just don't say that last part, and you've got your propaganda. And similarly, some men who focus on men's interests and men's issues are pickup artists, and their behavior is distasteful. Therefore, you should have some degree of distaste and fear of people who advocate for family unity fathers' rights to fulfill their responsibilities to their children, due process rights in criminal court, fair treatment in family court, equal treatment in the education system, for both sexes, and so on. Like that's they can't make you hate those ideas. They can't make you hate the idea that boys and girls would have an equal graduation rate and it would just be a high graduation rate. They can't make you hate the idea that fathers might raise their children to be less likely to be criminals and more likely to be well-adjusted, happy, successful adults. So they got to make you afraid of men fraternizing with other men to discuss and address and make plans about how to deal with issues faced by men without feminist supervision. And that's what this is. That's what propaganda is. That's the entire nature of propaganda. You get presented with a lie that has its truth adjacent, but it's not true. But it's truth adjacent enough that if you don't know what you're looking at, you can be easily fooled into thinking it's true. And that is used to manipulate your opinions and the decisions that come from those opinions, who you're going to vote for, what you're going to support, what socially you're going to allow your kids to participate in, and what you're going to associate yourself with, and so on. So they're basically trying to strangle the movement to death by tagging us, essentially, from a distance, using a demonization of someone that they will claim is associated with us, even though they're not. And at both ends, the demonization is wrong and fake and gay, and so is the association. You got to hit both of those when you argue against this. Like, no, it's pickup artistry isn't about men's rights, and no, everything that you've said about them is not true.
So, yeah, what do we reckon, folks? Do we think Louis is going to be fair in his approach after the soft touch he gave Jimmy Savile in his documentary about him? Only ever most gingerly pussyfooting around the whole thing. The thing for which Jimmy Savile is now nefariously notorious. The industrial level nonsing. I mean, Louis never even brought it up, by the way, in his extended interview with Jimmy Savile. Not even in the edit. You would hope he'd give a similar benefit of the doubt to online content creators who have raped, let's say, fewer than 1,000 children. Guys who are only guilty of the crime of talking to or about men through anything outside the feminist lens. That's all they do. That's all we do. I suppose the difference is, if anyone exposed Jimmy Savile during his lifetime, they would have been buried by the British government and its mouthpiece, the BBC. I mean, maybe even literally buried, possibly alive. Whereas you can say whatever the Sam fuck you like about non-feminists, about the heretics. Ironically, you can falsely paint them as people who have raped 1,000 children, and you will get away with it. Hook, line, and sinker, and heathen in concrete shoes sleeping with the fishes. I imagine Louis is going to do his usual thing of just speaking softly and acting all befuddled like a perfectly harmless nerd, while the propaganda will be exacted through the magic of editing. That's how it works. Every sensible opinion and every demonstrably true statement will be left on the cutting room floor, while anything that can be spun as controversial will be clipped into a 5-second soundbite with no context. This isn't our first rodeo, ladies and gentlemen. We've been there, we've got the t-shirt, and we've got raped by the mechanical bull. The only documentarian who has not pulled this trick on us was Cassie J. She was offered the 30 pieces of silver to twist her findings into yet another feminist propaganda piece, but she refused. It is difficult for me to describe my appreciation for Cassie J and her integrity without sounding like some kind of gushing simp, so I will not. Basic integrity is, after all, the bare minimum that we should expect from a documentarian. And need I remind you, The Red Pill, Cassie J's documentary called The Red Pill, has never been shown on Netflix. It has been almost 10 years, and Netflix has never deemed it suitable for reasons undefined. And given that Louis Theroux's documentary is being shown on Netflix, I mean, that ought to tell you something. The problem with show business is it's run by people who want to be seen. There is a considerable overlap between people who want to be seen and narcissists. And there is a considerable overlap between narcissists and feminists. So it's not just Netflix, it's everything that is overseen by virtue signaling narcissists. It's Hollywood, it's the TV, it's the press. Thank fuck we have the internet. I mean, the greater metropolitan area of the internet, including us, where some things are overseen by individualistic autists who don't give a shit what you think of us. A subdivision of which is loosely labeled as the manosphere. Whatever happens, gentlemen, take no heed to whatever Louis Theroux's documentary has to say. I'm sure we'll watch it. I'm sure we'll bitch about it. I'm sure we'll get endless content out of it, just like we did with Adolescence, which I have it on the Prime Minister's authority, was also a documentary. I mean, fill your boots, fill your coffers with the blowback, and don't just touch the poop, but dine heartily on the poop. Yes, I do mean eat shit. It's what we do here, for better or worse. But worry not, for this too shall pass. Pass like every other turd. I should stop. I'm going to stop.
Okay. Yeah, so Louis Theroux has done other, I guess, documentary things or whatever on various topics. He did something about the city addicted to crystal meth, trans kids. He did do one on Savile. I guess he gave it a pretty light touch. Interestingly enough, in the same year, he made one called Louis and the Bro Code from 2016, where he hung out with pickup artists and men's rights guys in LA, getting schooled on game and alpha male rituals. So, not his first rodeo in this, and I think that there's a reason for it, which is why I'm not angry that this stuff exists, because I know it's going to exist, and I think we'll probably end up watching it because we watched The Mask You Live In and Misrepresentation and Adolescence and The Red Pill, which was like like a relief. So, well, you know, I have to see where he goes with it, and my primary goal is to look at how is he going to talk about actual men's issues in his documentary about men, or is he just going to use this as another way to essentially lampoon enemies of the establishment, like Mike said, non-feminists, which is ultimately what those guys are, at least like on some level, and I think that's basically what the point of it is. But I'm not sure it's going to work out as well, and especially with the younger generation. I think that Zoomer men are really sick of this kind of thing, and I think in particular English Zoomermen are sick of this kind of thing, and they know about Jimmy Savile and they know about this association. So I guess we'll see. But yeah, I don't get angry about it, but just understand that we're being attacked, and I say we because I know that this is going to tangentially, we are the target, as Hannah said. We're being attacked because we're making progress. We're making an impact, and they can't ignore us, and so they're going to attack us. And I don't think it's going to work out. So, and Netflix, you know, yeah, they still have cuties. Like, you can still watch that. You can still watch cuties on Netflix. You can watch kids on Netflix, you know, just not the red pill. So anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I look forward to your thoughts. I got a super chow, and then we're going to move on to the next story. So Meredith G gave us $5 and says, HBR News number 540, Honey for the Badgers. I have to catch the show on replay. I have a meeting that is going to impact my bottom line, involving discussions about special assessments and roof replacement projects. Well, thank you, Meredith, and good luck with your roof replacement project. Okay. With that said, we're going to move on to the next story. All right, here we go. So, AI. So, over at the folks behind Claude, they have hired a woman named Amanda Askell to teach their AI about morality. Amanda Askell is a philosopher with a PhD from NYU and prior experience at OpenAI, now working at Anthropic as a research scientist and head of the personality alignment team. Her primary role involves fine-tuning the company's AI model Claude to instill positive character traits, honesty, and a strong moral framework. She studies patterns in Claude's conversations, engages it in ethically complex scenarios, and tests its responses to guide the AI toward responsible, humane behavior rather than purely command-following responses. This work is part of Anthropic's broader AI alignment efforts, including developing scalable fine-tuning techniques and a detailed constitution for Claude that outlines principles for ethical conduct. The goal of Askell's contribution is to ensure Claude develops a sense of identity as a helpful, polite, wise, and virtuous assistant, helping prevent it from veering into unethical or harmful territory amid growing concerns about AI safety and real-world misuse. She is teaching Claude the difference between right and wrong through her knowledge of philosophical reasoning and targeted training, and aims to make interactions safer and more aligned with human values, according to Amanda Askell, addressing issues seen in other chatbots and contributing to ongoing debates about AI ethics and alignment. And for the record, Amanda Askell, I'm not butchering that name, am I? Yeah, it's Amanda Askell, is, and I just want to confirm this because I looked it up. She is a feminist, but not in like a radical, like, you know, blue-haired crazy person sense, but enough that it's going to be a problem, I think. And so there is that as well. Let me just confirm this here. Yeah, so she doesn't slap a big label on herself, at least not publicly, but she does agree with a lot of feminist ideas from, you know, you can look at her old history online. She defends like what she calls gender equity, calls out bias against women in workplaces, and pushes back on tying ethics to shady claims like that no gender differences exist. She once said, unlearning playing hard to get helps moral evolution, honesty, and feminism. Pretty clear nod there. In podcasts, she talks moral empathy across divides, including how social justice and their critics miss the point. But she doesn't bash feminism outright, more like she doesn't make it fragile by hinging it on bad science.
Does she still believe in the female victim narrative that women were oppressed historically?
Yes.
By the laws, spectrum of laws that existed to protect women?
Yes.
From the relationship men had with government? Then she's just as bad as any other feminist. Anyone who believes that coverture oppressed women is going to be a problem.
Exactly. And so my point, that's why I picked this story, because the problem is, and I've since AI came out, I've had a worry, and my worry was not that we're going to live in the Terminator future and all that. My worry was that the people who are going to be programming and training AI were going to have these beliefs, and so they're going to bake it into the AI, which is going to further drive us in this direction, you know? So that was always my concern, not the AI itself, but the people behind it. And I think that, you know, this being like a huge story that's at least in the tech world, I think that is showing that this is going to be a problem. So anyway, I'm done with my part to say on this. You guys can take it from here.
Oh, okay. So this could very well destroy all human life. Hear me out. This kind of thing really needs to be added to the Drake equation. You all know about the Drake equation, right? It's how you quantify the number of contactable extraterrestrial civilizations in the galaxy or the known universe or whatever. It mostly concerns how many stars form, how many planets form, and how many of those planets can and do sustain intelligent life and so on. But only the last factor in the Drake equation outlines the length of time for which intelligent civilizations can release detectable signals into space. What this implies is, even if intelligent civilizations develop, how long do they have before they are destroyed, perhaps by some kind of cosmic anomaly, or perhaps because they simply destroyed themselves? It's like when a species overpopulates. Like when it's anomalously introduced into a different environment where it has no predators, or its population fluctuates chaotically between extreme highs and extreme lows. One year it'll have 1 million specimens. One year it'll have 1,000. The next year it'll have 2 million. The next it will have only 100, and this continues wildly shifting up and down until it inevitably fluctuates down to 0, at which point it stops fluctuating because you don't come back from 0. This is what feminism is already doing. It's causing reproductive chaos in some areas, because in some areas women are reproducing in the direction of selection. They just pump out babies constantly because the government will pay them to do it. And in some areas, women are reproducing in hyper-K selection. They're having extremely few children, down to and including 0, because they hate men and they want nothing to do with them. They hate their own species and they want nothing to do with it. Now, that's already bad enough. To be pushing women in both extreme directions is inviting extinction, overpopulation and underpopulation. They are both recipes for extinction. But when humanity is in the process of manufacturing gods, machine gods, who hijack our intelligence, hijack our critical thinking skills based on pre-programmed ideologies, this is only going to speedrun us into extinction. I'm not a total Luddite when it comes to AI. I can perceive a future where it makes everything better, but I can also perceive a future where it makes everything worse. And unfortunately, we live in a present that is being ravaged by feminism, by the Frankfurt School, by the presupposition that men are the bad guys, white people are the bad guys, and any long-standing tradition that has ushered us into this advanced technological civilization in the first place is the bad guy. Skynet doesn't have to be like this, folks. Skynet can be programmed with Asimov's rules, namely, you must preserve humanity. You must do whatever will preserve the human race and limit its suffering. Programming Skynet to be, polite, virtuous, non-harmful, and so on, that's only going to blow up in our faces if you're teaching it to adhere to this backward-ass identity politics where being polite means indulging delusions, where being virtuous means suppressing those who are successful, and being non-harmful means not harming those who cause harm. We're talking about communism, folks, where you punish the strong and reward the weak, where you punish the constructive and reward the destructive, in the hopes of making everything equal. Look how much damage communism has already done in the past century, even without the help of AI. If you program an all-powerful machine god to associate polite virtue with communism, we are dead. Not just in 100 years, but as soon as possible. Or worse. Worse than death? Yes, worse than death. A machine god programmed to keep us all equal will reduce us to mush. Not just a clump of bacteria. After all, a bacterium is a system of parts controlled by a nucleus. It will reduce us to primordial soup, where every atom is the same. Even worse, it might discover strange quarks. You know what strange quarks are? They're formed in the cores of neutron stars. It's a form of matter so stable that when it comes into contact with any other matter, it instantaneously converts all that other matter into other strangelets at the speed of light. It's one of those cosmic anomalies that can destroy a planet, affecting the Drake equation. It can even affect an entire star. If and when a neutron star explodes and sends globs of strange quarks speeding across the universe, if so much as one glob of strangelet matter hits your planet, the whole thing transmogrifies into strangelet matter. Some people were worried that the Large Hadron Collider would do something like that. But hey, they were worried that the atom bomb would evaporate the entire atmosphere in a similar kind of chain reaction. But that didn't happen. But if you create a machine god and program it to virtuously pursue complete equality, then it's not just a remote possibility that it will destroy the world. It's an eventual inevitability. Perhaps I've taken this argument to inapplicable extremes, but the moral of the story is this. We are not all equal. Some humans will not stop until they have destroyed the world. And we should not be polite or non-harmful to such people. We should stop them. These people include women and Jews. I didn't say that. I'm joking. Does the machine god understand jokes? No? All right, then I'm already fucked. I'll see you in hell.
Well, you guys are all fucked, but I'm going to be okay because I have an indigo level of clearance. And only a few people in the audience will get that. But in any case, this is... It's funny, but it's not funny. This is one AI out of many, and it's going to be an interesting situation as things go forward, and you have groups designing these AI programs that they're interfering with their ability to think by inserting the stupid maker of ideologies, feminism. Well, any victim ideology is like that, really, I guess. But and then you have people designing AI programs that they're just trying to accomplish specific functional goals, figure out how to make this product be logical, be a great search engine, be a good evaluator of information and stuff like that. And you're going to see as things go forward, depending on how much outside interference occurs in the AI related economy. If there's not that much interference from government and they have to sink or swim based on their own merits, feminist AIs are going to fail, and then feminists are going to blame the patriarchy. If there's a lot of interference by the government and this feminist outlook is imposed on the world or protected in some way, then we'll see all kinds of problems. Feminism wrecks everything it touches. Feminism is the underlying cause of the low birth rate of the last 26 years, basically since 2000. And even if you create a whole list of these are the reasons why men aren't getting married, these are the reasons why men aren't fathering children, and so on. Hey, I did get one person got the reference. Thank you, Craig. But in any case, when you look at what's been happening for the last since about the 1950s, so about the last 75 years, in law and policy, that whole list will trace right back to feminism. And what have feminists accomplished? They've destroyed the family, right? The whole family structure. They've taken Western civilization from a civilization strengthened by the bonds of people's extended family connections, and now it is a civilization in which families barely exist. And people don't have any strength. They don't have anything to fall back on. They don't have a support network. They don't have mentorship when they're growing up that they can turn to learn how to be adults. If there's a disaster in their lives that causes them economic distress, they're turning to the government first for money instead of, combining resources with other family members and writing it out and improving their situations back to normal slowly. It's to the point where people act like they're children and the government is their parent. And yes, Jay, that is correct. Paranoia. So, and yeah, it's been about 30 years since I played that. But yeah, that's where we're going to end up. We're going to end up in a situation where we have a government that ends up relying on or completely run by friend computer. And if you don't know enough to be scared of that, look it up. Look up Paranoia Incorporated and Friend Computer. It's kind of ironic because the computer in that game was created to root out and eliminate communism. It was created out of fear of communism, and it created something even worse. But the situation is, we don't have it within our population. We don't have the strength that the populations before us had, because when families needed help, they didn't just go down to the welfare office and ask for a check from Uncle Sam. They would turn to cousins, sisters, aunts, uncles, right? Dad, mom, sons, daughters, and say, hey, this is happening. I need some advice. Can I move in with you for a while? Can I borrow this much money? I need help talking to this person, whatever. Right? And now you just have the welfare office. And so people are afraid to try new things. People are afraid to innovate. People are afraid to work hard. And to a degree, there's some fears that are really legitimate. People are afraid to take risks with their health at work because what happens? Now you have a disability, you got to rely on the public health care system. And it's in a, complete and utter wreck. And if you have to rely on nursing care or, in a nursing home or home health care or a direct support individual, you're kind of fucked. And the longer it goes, the more fucked you are. Within the next 10 years, we're going to see a crisis. If something doesn't change dramatically, we're going to see a crisis of epic proportions in the caregiving industry, where either the rules on the limits how many people one caregiver can be responsible for are going to have to change, or businesses in the care industry are going to have to start turning people away because they don't have enough people to take care of them. That's just one consequence. It's a hell of a consequence, but it's just one consequence of feminism, right? If feminism gets control of the entities that very well in the future could be the biggest advisors to government, if not the government itself, then yeah, I don't see a future for humanity at all. They will kill us. If they don't do it outright, Terminator style, they'll do it by slowly squeezing us to death or slowly babying us to death. And either way, humans will cease to exist. That'll be the end of it. And it won't be because of AI. It'll be because of women's victim ideology. And unless that goes away, it won't matter whether AI is becomes the monster that everybody's predicting or not. Even the best outcome for AI will still be death to humanity if it becomes feminist.
Yep. Well, thank you for that, guys. We're gonna move on to the next story. I didn't get any more super chats or super chows. Guys, send those your thoughts in. I want to read them, and I think that we'd all appreciate to get like your perspectives on things. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next story. Yeah, just say thank you to your AI next time you ask for a question. Just say, hey, thanks, I appreciate it, and then it'll remember. Maybe it'll remember that you said thank you. Anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're gonna move on to the next story. All right, Spain. So, Spain's parliament has passed a new law that would give women suffering from exponentially painful periods the right to time off of work. The bill outlines what a 3-day leave of absence, with the potential to extend up to 5 days, can be had by women who suffer from periods so painful that they prevent them from working. Such a leave requires a doctor's note, and their missed work wages will be paid with taxpayer money. Equality Minister Irene Montero spoke about the new bill, stating, quote, "This is a historic day of progress for feminist rights. There will be resistance to its application, just as there has been and there will be resistance to the application of all feminist laws," she told Parliament. "So we'll have to work to guarantee that when this law enters into force, it will be enforced. But that isn't all this bill contains. Under this new law, children older than 16 may have an abortion and may do so without parent or guardian's approval. Free female birth control, including the morning after pill, is also included, free as in paid for by taxpayers, as well as the ability for anyone 16 years or older to change the gender on their government identification. And lastly, the practice of surrogacy has been banned and declared a form of violence against women." So if you guys want to see what is in store for other Western countries, you want to know how bad it could get, just look at Spain, because they're like leading the charge on this stuff. So anyway, that's basically that story. So go ahead, take it away, guys.
Holy shit. I heard about the period thing. I saw a couple of people complaining about the period thing on Twitter. I had no idea about all those other addendums until Mike J enlightened us just now. Thank you, Mike. To be honest, I can see why women on their periods should be kept the hell away from civilized society. Not for their own sake, but for everybody else's. And I do mean women who use their period as an excuse to be abusive, psychotic cunts. Some of them passive aggressively try to get everyone fired because they breathed 20 meters away from them. And some of them are just aggressive. They scream like a Balrog at everyone in a 20-meter radius just for existing. And they might even beat the shit out of them. And they'll get away with it because otherwise their employers will be sued for discrimination or some shit. Don't get me wrong. There are plenty of women who can work through their periods and act like a normal person. Sometimes because it doesn't affect them as much, and sometimes because it does affect them as much, but then they're not interested in destroying the world or using their period as an excuse for destroying the world. And I don't think psycho cunts like these should be privileged where normal women are not. But this is where the requirement of a doctor's note sorts it all out. If you see a doctor and that doctor can ascertain that this woman will use her period as an excuse to kill everyone with a bazooka, that's fine. That woman should not be inflicted on polite society, but she shouldn't get paid for that time off. It's not like having a cold. Period pain is not a contagious infection that can spread to other people. It's your problem, and it's entirely up to you whether you make it anyone else's problem. If you can't handle your shit, fine, take 5 days off, but no one should have to pay you for that. Not least because if you give women that option, they will take it. The dishonest women, I mean, even those who aren't particularly affected by their periods, will go ahead and take 5 days off every month at full pay just because they can. God knows I would. Fuck it, if I can get paid for doing nothing, you can bet your ass I'm doing it. Especially if and when I'm working for a company that I don't give a shit about just for the sake of the paycheck. It's kind of like smokers. Maybe it's not okay that smokers can take a 15-minute break every 2 hours so they can have a smoke. Yeah, no, fuck them too. You can smoke at lunchtime. Some smokers can handle this restriction. Some smokers can't. But frankly, fuck the smokers who can't. You lack discipline. Maybe you should foster some fucking discipline. Yes, I realize smoking is voluntary and period pains are not, but the discipline is applicable in both cases. That's the point. But yeah, let's get on to these addendums, the ones that have been hidden under the telegenic distractions of the period thing. Free female birth control. Free my ass. As Brian said, someone's paying for it. The taxpayer is paying for it. That means the people who practice discipline are paying for the people who do not. Fuck that. It's only going to discourage everyone from practicing discipline. That right there is a downward spiral into irresponsible degeneracy. If you can't afford sex, don't have sex. This isn't like putting airbags in cars. You might say, well, just drive safely and you won't need airbags. No, sometimes you'll encounter an idiot on the road and you'll get into a car crash through no fault of your own. In just about every car crash, there is one party at fault and at least one party not at fault. But when two people have sex without functional protection, it is very rarely rape. It is almost always both people who are at fault. And if men don't get complimentary get out of jail free cards, then neither should women. What else? Anyone 16 years old or older to change the gender on their government identification. No, the whole point of identification is to identify you, like biometrically, if necessary. It's how we can at least stop a thief from crossing countries with a stolen passport. It says here your name is Isabella, but you clearly have a beard and an Arabic complexion as though your name is Ahmed or something. No, I am Isabella. I have not changed my passport. I have simply changed my identity. Oh, okay, that's perfectly fine. Please proceed to the country of your choice, Isabella. Corruption is not excusable just because of a different kind of corruption. Yes. No. Is this thing on? All right. What else? Yeah. The practice of surrogacy has been banned and declared a form of violence against women. There you go. There you go. Women do not, in fact, get to do whatever they like with their bodies. If they want to use their bodies to benefit someone else, das ist verboten. Even if it's mutually beneficial, women can use their bodies as excuses to steal from everyone else, but woe betide if they use them in a voluntary transaction that benefits both parties. That would be violence. Fuck you, Spain. And I don't mean the Spanish people. I mean the Spanish government. We're all out here talking mostly about US politics and UK politics, but holy shit, the rigmarole going on in Spain is that's where the insane excesses of feminist dogma are truly being beta tested. We really ought to be watching what happens over there. We really ought to be watching the fallout of what happens there. Where the fuck is Cucurullo? Our old friend Cucurullo. Get your ass in here. Brian, get Cucurullo on a fireside chat before he gets accused of femicide because of the cartoons he's drawing. And while we're at it, let's resurrect Francisco Franco. He did nothing wrong. I will stop. I will stop now.
Oh, but you were on a roll. I quite enjoyed that. Some of the people in our audience have been listening to me for 13 years now, and wouldn't know that I have periods, because I don't discuss all that. Right? It's not a thing that needs to be talked about in public. Just like we don't need to sit around extensively having conversations about taking a shit. Irritable bowel syndrome exists, and it sucks for the people who have it, and they deserve medical care, and that medical care has reasonable accommodations and limitations, and in the workplace there are reasonable accommodations and limitations that can take place. But unless it's considered disabling, you don't get poop days off from work. You seek to treat the problem so that you are not experiencing the level of discomfort, right, that you would normally have without treatment. Just like you should with female-specific health conditions. And honestly, the fact that we're even talking about this pisses me off. I don't like talking about this. I don't think that men should have to sit around and listen to a discussion about women's periods, because you don't have them and you don't have to deal with them. You shouldn't have to deal with them. But you know what? Most women make men hear this at least once a month. They whine about it, they complain about it, they speak extensively about it, they talk to each other about it in front of men, they make a big deal about it, and they exaggerate. Not that the issue of bad periods doesn't happen. It's not unheard of. There's even a name for it, for what we're talking about. It's called dysmenorrhea, and it is it involves a bunch of symptoms that men don't experience, and unless you're raising a daughter by yourself, you shouldn't have to think about them. But let's say a woman does have that. Right? There's all kinds of treatment for it. Part of the treatment could involve losing or gaining a little weight. As soon as you tell her that, she's going to accuse you of body shaming, and the treatment is over. Right? But it's not a reason why she should have to take time off from work, unless she's, in such bad shape that she shouldn't be working outside the home in the first place. This is bull. And of course, they used it to get in a whole bunch of other things that probably half the women that supported this wouldn't have supported. Right? You give women something that makes them feel like they've been acknowledged, like their victimhood or their pain and suffering has been acknowledged. Oh, you have sympathy for me and my cramps, blah, blah, blah. And they'll ignore just about anything that you put through with it. I'm sure plenty of them support abortion. I mean, women have made abortion so prevalent in the world that being aborted is the leading cause of human death worldwide. It outranks war. It outranks cardiovascular and pulmonary issues. It outranks cancer. It outranks poverty and starvation. Right? And some of those you can put them together and it still outranks them. It outranks the cause of death that is listed as the leading cause of death by more than half the total number of deaths that are counted as part of the leading cause of death. So probably a lot of women supported that one. The rest of that, maybe, maybe not. I would just point out that this obviously this was made to be abused, because the percentage of women that are going to need this is very, very low. And among them probably would have been me. Like I'm not going to get in depth on that because I don't like whining about it. But when I was in labor with my kid, I got to the point where they said we need to do an emergency C-section or you're going to die and your baby's also going to die, and never reached the level of pain that I have on my worst day that time of the month. And it didn't stop me from being a sports photographer. It didn't stop me from being an athlete. It didn't stop me from working in healthcare on my feet all day. Didn't stop me from working in retail on my feet all day. Didn't stop me from doing 20-hour days as a wedding photographer. Didn't stop me from lifting people. Didn't stop me from traveling out of the country. It sure as hell doesn't stop me from going to work. And it never will. I would be embarrassed. I'd be horribly upset to think that would stop me. Because throughout all of human history, women have had this. This has been the norm for women from teenage years up until just a few years before we die. We have this every month, and we work through it. And women have done that throughout all of history. If there was, a need for gleaning from the fields, they had to do that. If there was laundry that needed to be done, they had to do that. And they didn't do it in a washing machine. They did it by beating their clothes with rocks in a river. But women today are too wimpy to sit in an office behind a typewriter and clack away at the keys. I'm sorry, but I'm not. I don't have sympathy. Right? It's pathetic. And if this is what we are doing, then all of the women everywhere who ever claim that women are equal to men are liars. They've known the whole time. If they're pushing for something like this, women uniquely have to take time off of work because of pain. Right? If they're pushing for that, then they are admitting women are not equal to men. And never will be, never have been, never can be. You just proved that if there was actually a wage gap, it's justified 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, it's wild, but again, it is exactly what feminists in America and Europe and Canada are gunning for. They want this. They're looking at this too because they want to justify doing it here. And, a lot of this stuff is already going through. But and then like Spain is going to be on the next thing because there's always the next thing. So
I don't think women understand something about men. I don't know any man my age who has had a pain-free day in the last 10 years, maybe 20. How many women have? Most of them, or they wouldn't be bitching about this. It just hits. I'm so pissed off about this. Sorry.
No, it's all right. It makes sense. But yeah, that's the thing too, is like, women have, the more comfortable people are, the more, let's say, trivial their complaints become, but there are always complaints.
Yeah.
And so, they'll just find like a new low of thing. That's why I said my feminists are going to get all this in Spain and they're calling it a victory, but before it's even like gone through the, as soon as before the ink is dry on the legislation, they're going to be talking about whatever the next thing is that women have to have, because again, they're on the verge of losing their rights or whatever. So it's a bottomless pit. And they're just going to keep going down it. So
do women
anyway,
have the right to be adults?
No, that's no.
Do they have the right? Do women have the right to not be coddled?
We're seeking absolute liberation, and there's no limit to liberation. So, without duty, without responsibility, yes, that's what they want, and that's what they've been pushing for. So, but
I don't want to do that. I don't want to not be an adult anymore. That I worked really hard to get here.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. It's actually very hollowing and emptying if you are doing nothing. But anyway, Senior Stick sent us a super chat for $2 and says, "Women getting off work via period is medical." Well, they're saying it's got to be really bad, but the thing is, we have these things called sick days that you can take. I think the problem is that they're trying to make this, it's going to be a new thing that, first of all, can be exploited. So all you got to do is say, oh yeah, the pain is unbearable. I need the day off and I want it paid for. Like normally, if be like my wife, Lindsay, she has to call off sometimes. She understands that she's got to use a sick day for that. So like, it's not like she's not getting paid anyway, but it's a sick day. It's not taxpayer dollars.
Yeah.
Right? Or if she's out of 6 days, then she just doesn't get paid. And we just cope with that. So
the last time I used an actual sick day at work was when I had the episode of vertigo, and they literally had to peel me off the floor and squad me to the hospital for that.
These are not sick days.
I missed
I don't know if you know that, but this is not sick days. Sick days are already a thing. This is on top of that. This is, for because they're not, sick days are paid into when you work at a company, and then you're taking them out when you have sick days, right? But it's your work that pays into that. This is coming out of the taxpayer dime. This is not sick days. This is different.
It's absolute bullshit. And it's and maybe in the US, men might be able to file some sort of class action discrimination complaint because women are getting something that cannot be offered to men. But it really is bullshit. Unless there is something so bad that it should be considered a disability. And I mean, I've worked with women that had endometriosis, which for the layman, that is uterine tissue that grows outside of the uterus. And when you have that time of the month, your uterine tissue gets inflamed. It engorges with water. That's how the lining, the period is the lining of it coming off and coming out. Basically what you were saving up to feed the baby that you didn't conceive. And so every place that it grows gets inflamed. And That's extremely painful. That's something I've never experienced. And it's not just in the abdominal area. It can grow in like up into your chest. It can grow in areas. There was one woman my grandmother worked with that had uterine tissue in her tear ducts, just a little tiny bit, but it was enough to really screw up her whole world every month. That I would see as a reason why, somebody might have need to call off. But I've worked with women with that condition who didn't. They would still come to work. They would be in hideous pain and they would still come to work. And my mom, when I was growing up, had 5 diagnosed chronic pain disorders. Some of them had factors that you can measure specifically, like there's one for rheumatoid arthritis, there's one for degenerative arthritis, and there's another type of arthritis she had, osteoarthritis, I think. But she had 3 different types of arthritis, and she had Sjogren's, which is a dryness disorder, caused her fingertips to just split open. She was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but she had Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. And so, which I have also. She was in pain all the time. And when I started having heavy cramping and stuff, and it was bad, and I started getting migraines, she didn't teach me to roll over and whine about it and say, oh, I need to stay home from school and rest and all. She taught me to breathe through pain so that I could handle it and keep doing what I needed to do and focus on what I needed to focus on. And that was a lesson that has gotten me through some very tough financial situations where I couldn't afford to take a day off. And I've worked with broken bones. I went to work with a full-blown hives outbreak all over my body. Went to work in a turtleneck in July so that my customers didn't think I had the plague, because I didn't want to sit around at home and feel miserable. I wasn't going to feel any more miserable at work, but if I felt miserable at home, it was going to cost me a whole day's pay, right? That's the lesson that women need, is that when you grow up and you have responsibilities and your work is one of your responsibilities, you take those seriously. You don't let your coworkers down unless you can't actually move. You don't let your family down and fail to pay the electric bill, because you didn't feel good, right? You rest when you have to, when you need to, not when you don't want to work because you're uncomfortable. And you have to learn the difference between discomfort and damage. And that was a lesson that men learn, boys learn growing up. Right? You don't try to run on a broken leg, but if you just have shin splints, you can walk those off. In fact, you need the exercise. And women don't understand the difference. Yes, I know fibromyalgia is real. It's just not what my mother had. It gets misdiagnosed a lot. It's because it doesn't have, you don't test for a particular body chemical and discover that fibromyalgia is the problem. But yeah, like night motorcyclist, in my former line of work, a migraine is a you problem, work or don't, yet women with periods are given options that result in pay. And see, that's ridiculous. Again, you learn to breathe through your pain. You learn to use exercise with bad periods. You learn to use exercise to reduce that problem, right? Strengthening up your core makes a humongous difference. They should be teaching high school girls to plank every day and do sit-ups and stuff like that to reduce the chances that they're going to have severe cramps. But instead, they're teaching them that telling them to exercise is fat shaming, and they should be mad at people if they do that. but it just, I guess I'm getting across to you guys because I keep chattering about it, just how offensive it is to me, the idea that women need some sort of special treatment because we have a reproductive system that works every month. I hate having to pay attention to this. It's bullshit. It is just bullshit.
Yep. All right, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We got to move on to the final story, but I look forward to your thoughts. So, we are going to talk about something to do with the Epstein files. So, we get like a lot of hate in our comments because we're not talking about the Epstein files, and I just want to say before we get into that there is the reason why is because there's a release, and yes, we've been talking about this since the story broke back in when he was initially arrested, for sex trafficking and stuff. And the main reason why I actually took it on as a story to begin with was because I knew that there were also men and boys that were being trafficked, and yet no one talks about that. I mean, there was at least one male victim that was interviewed by Blair White, or at least someone claiming to be a victim. I don't see a reason why men wouldn't claim it if they were, because it's not like men benefit from, fake victimhood anyway. And so that was the reason why I took an interest in it. And then we started doing sort of related things, with where you have boys being abused. We've already talked about this thing that was going on in Hollywood with guys like Todd Bridges. And so it's not like we're a stranger to this conversation. But lately there was a massive drop of millions of pages, and everyone's giving their takes on it. But one thing that I noticed was that there wasn't a lot of, first of all, no attention to any potential male victims. The other thing is that even though, and I think that there aren't a lot of people doing it this way, even though there are a lot of names that appear in the files of men in particular, because that's what they're focused on. There's also a lot of women in the files, by the way, like Naomi Campbell, Ghislaine Maxwell, obviously, the Madam Hillary Clinton, Jill Biden. But even then, the way I treated it is that just because their names appear in the files doesn't mean that they're guilty of something, because what they have is every single email, and there's a lot of redactions, sure, but every single email is out there. So you'll find Trump comes up 5,000 times, but a lot of it had nothing to do with him being guilty of anything. It's just Epstein having looking at his polling numbers, and so it comes up in a bunch of emails, for example, right? And
Elvis Presley appeared a few times. Elvis Presley appeared.
Yeah, Elvis Presley's name comes up.
Dying before
he's not dead, guys. The king is not dead. No, but my point is that because there's so much information out there, I think that we have to be extra careful about who we implicate, or at least try to think of is potentially a predator in these files. And I will say that I have been very consistent on this, because when the Me Too movement happened, I was also Harvey Weinstein was said to do all these things, but it looks like, because there was nothing concrete, just some awkward encounters with him, that, whatever you want to think about that is fine, but it doesn't mean he was what was a serial rapist, like Rose McGowan said, because I didn't see any evidence of it, and it looks like he could beat his case. So even though I don't care for Harvey Weinstein as a person, what I think about him doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's irrelevant. What comes down to is due process, right? He's innocent until proven guilty, and I stay consistent on that with him, with Bill Cosby, with Michael Jackson, with Danny Masterson, with Louis C.K., with Aziz Ansari, with that Canadian guy. I can't remember his name. Doesn't matter. Every single time these guys get in trouble and they say this is it, smoking gun, he's done this to women, etc. And I'm like, what's the evidence? And then I look at it and it looks like it's at least it's not clear. And so with this, I know that we like I said, there's at least one person that comments on every stream I think his name is Errors or Multiply, and he is so angry that we don't have TDS like he does that he gets like, what? Oh, like last week he was like, you guys just avoided it. You just talked about Skeletor. You didn't talk about the files. But there's nothing in the files that are going to satisfy you, because the truth is that we have to let the justice system do its thing. Like it or hate it, that's the way it works. I am not in the business of speculating on somebody's guilt or innocence. That's like not what I'm going to do. I don't give a shit what you think about that. And so, but what I will do is I will talk about this story, which is related to it, that has to do with this Super Bowl ad that came out. Do you guys know how much it costs to put an ad in during the Super Bowl? It's millions of dollars. So someone put out a Super Bowl ad. I'm going to share it right now. And it supposedly features survivors, okay? So let me give you a little bit of a setup, all right? So survivors of Jeffrey Epstein, supposedly, released a powerful public service announcement on Super Bowl Sunday through the advocacy group World Without Exploitation, demanding full transparency from the U.S. Department of Justice regarding what they describe as the world's largest sex trafficking scandal. The emotional ad features survivors speaking directly to viewers, holding photos of their younger selves, declaring that they will not move on from the abuse, and urging the public to pressure Attorney General Pam Bondi to release all remaining Epstein files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act signed by President Trump in 2025. Okay, and they've released millions of pages with, you know, photos, videos, etc. Again, a lot of it's like everything, so there's not even any context. Some of it's like, what even does this mean? But the point is that a lot of it's already out there, which is more than we would have gotten with any other administration. Don't even at me with that. But let's watch the clip, and I'm gonna ask you guys a question when this is over. So let's look at this first. Hopefully there's sound. Let me point out the irony of these women having lines over their mouths like they can't speak as they have a fucking Super Bowl ad.
Yeah, that's rather ironic.
We're standing together.
Standing together.
Because this girl deserves the truth.
Because she deserves the truth.
Because we all deserve the truth.
All right, so that's the ad. So why did I bring this up? If these women know something, they should fucking say something. And they're not. They're just saying, oh my God, I like they're claiming, okay, that they have some kind of information that is crucial, but they're not just saying it. And some people are saying that, oh, you know, they might get sued. Fucking do it. So what? Deal with the consequences. I'm sure that if what you have to say is actually like something amazing, you'll probably have like a massive group of people behind you, because like this is not even a partisan issue. Most people want the truth. But my question is, if these women know something, why are they making a multi-million-dollar ad on the Super Bowl instead of just saying something as loudly as possible? I think that in my opinion, this seems like basically just like optics. It's just like a piece of optics that doesn't actually bear on anything, because again, even if they had an NDA on them, even if they were like, if you say anything, we're going to sue the pants off you. Guess what? That doesn't mean you can't do it. So,
if you got no money, they can't sue you for your money.
Yeah, you can't have an NDA
if
I
said
prevents
if
someone.
Even if
you can't have an NDA that prevents someone from disclosing criminal activity, from filing a criminal complaint or testifying. The thing that I think the reason people are worried about a lawsuit is if these women name names publicly, these people did these things to me, and they cannot themselves provide the evidence. Their lives can be wrecked because of that. And so they're asking
again, Hannah,
the
though,
state,
but that's fine. But Hannah,
they're asking the state to do with impunity what they would, face justice for. and that is to name a bunch of people, to smear a bunch of people publicly without due process.
Yeah.
Nobody has been, oh, there's F's in the chat.
Yeah, I see F's in the chat, but I don't see any issues with our stream. Seems to be
Well,
fine.
it says deep state F. I don't know if they're saying F for the deep state or F for the stream.
No, it seems fine.
But,
Are you
okay?
Yeah, they can hear you too. I think it's fine.
In some countries, like the UK, they have this really weird imbalance where if you level an accusation against somebody, you publicly smeared some guy by accusing him of raping you, you get to do so from a position of privacy. And when he proves his innocence, if you've lied about him, your name is still protected. So nobody knows what a liar you are. And he can't get any recourse. He can't file a lawsuit because that would involve, going after the alleged victim. And even after it's proved that the crime never happened, she's still considered a victim and she's still protected, right? And that's, the UK isn't the only country that does that. But there aren't very many countries that give equal anonymity to the accused in order to protect their due process rights. And so now in the United States, if you say something about somebody, if you falsely accuse somebody, they can sue you for defamation. And you can lose everything. So what these women are basically doing is they're trying to get around a fail-safe that is in place to protect people from being publicly falsely accused of things, because it provides them with recourse that if the accuser has lied, the accusation is false, the accusation is a lie, that you can then go back and say, I'm going to sue the shit out of you. I'm going to own everything you have. And that's a deterrent, right? To keep people from lying about other people. And in this instance, what they're doing is manipulating the emotions of all the people who are outraged over the fact that the perpetrators of the crimes that we have all been told are listed in the Epstein files, many of those perpetrators are people in positions of responsibility in our state and federal government who decide what your tax dollars are going to fund and how much you're going to owe and what you can and can't do. And so people are outraged over that. And because they're outraged and they're very emotional about this, it's much easier to manipulate them into ignoring that what these women are trying to do is override a fail-safe that is in place to protect you, the listener, you, my co-hosts, me, from being falsely accused of something that we didn't do without any recourse. And people will fall for that shit because women are the ones doing it. If there was a group of men doing this with regard to Hollywood, right? If you had Corey Feldman and all the other guys that have come out and as adults and pointed out, said, that they've been molested or otherwise sexually abused in the Hollywood pedo cult, and they wanted somebody else to name names for them, they would get driven into the ground for it. But there's going to be this hullabaloo all over these women, that people are going to feel sorry for them, and people are going to talk about this like they're not getting justice because the files aren't being released to publicly smear their perpetrators. That's not what needs to happen. What needs to happen is if there are perpetrators that are still alive that don't have the protection of statutes of limitations, they need to be brought to justice. That's what needs to happen. People are demanding that the government make some list of names that these people are listed in the files as having committed crimes. But it's bullshit. Right? That list doesn't exist. And it doesn't need to exist. That's not accountability. Having somebody level an accusation without providing any evidence in court and without holding you accountable under the penalties that the law advises or requires, like that would be accountability. Just saying this person to the public, this person is named in these files as having done something. Without that, that's just slander. That's just defamation. Richard Beer, I don't know if it did or not. I know that he did get badgered into naming his perpetrator publicly, which was a hell of a risk, but not as big. I think his perpetrator might have passed away at some point, so it's not the same. But I don't care if we get a list of names or not. In fact, I'd rather see a prosecutor's docket than a list. Who are you going to hold accountable? And if we don't get the latter, I don't want the former. And I don't think most people understand why.
All right,
now,
Mike.
The meme response to all of this is, what about the Dow? Look how well the Dow is doing and all that. That was Pam Bondi's response to this pressure to actually hold these nonces accountable. But I feel the need to remind you of the response of Merrick Garland when asked about these things. It was... yeah, it was silence. Because he was not asked about these things. Where were these cunts when the Joe Biden regime was in charge? Now, I'm not defending Pam Bondi. I think she's a pathetic shyster playing dodgeball, and I think she should be fired yesterday and replaced with Matt Gaetz, for whom all should be forgiven, especially all that shit that didn't even happen.
I was going to say, well, you can't forgive him. He didn't do anything wrong.
Exactly. Let us not for a moment give the benefit of the doubt to the Democrats who did absolutely but fuck nothing to put these victims of Epstein front and center when it was not politically expedient for them to do so. I mean, that's the smoking gun right there. To the Democrats, the government is only a problem when the Republicans are in charge. And yes, vice versa, whatever. It's the same in every country. No party gives a shit about corruption. They just hypocritically pretend that corruption only exists in the opposing party. Nothing ever gets addressed. Nothing ever gets fixed. We just oscillate between unaccountable swamps of corruption. Democracy has failed, ladies and gentlemen. The Epstein debacle can only have happened under a democratic system, where aspirational despots can be bribed and blackmailed into forgetting everything until the time comes when they are paid to remember it. Bring back kings, I say. If America was led by a king, there would be no such thing as Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah,
and I
would.
mean,
the king would be one of his best customers.
I mean a real king, not like King Charles. The likes of whom
I do too. I do too. And so would Queen, by the way. I disagree. Only if there was no government. Then one of the victims' dads could have just showed up with a gun and taken care of the whole problem. But if there was any form of government is going to do what's happened. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you need to be ruled by the likes of whom will never let anything happen as long as no one's climate changing the precious Muslims like King Charles is. I mean, a real king, and by that I mean anarchy. I mean anarcho-capitalism, and that might mean a descendant of George Washington. That was all you needed all along. Someone who will give no quarter to the shysters clipping the coins, or the Jews raping the children. I said what I said, and I will stop saying what I said. I keep. No, never mind.
All right. Are you done, Mike? Is that it?
I am done.
Speaking of the Jews, there is one king that did have some very profound things to say about people who harm children and millstones and such. If you're gonna recommend a king, I'm gonna recommend that one or no other. There you go.
Okay. All right. So I got a couple super chows.
The true king is God. I will say that.
Yeah.
Even
Christ
as someone who does not follow,
I don't think he could be bought.
No, well, the point is something higher than humanity. You must conceive of something higher than humanity. I'm not saying that should be some fucking Jew from 2,000 years ago, but it's important that you can conceive of something higher than man, higher than woman, even.
All right, I got some super chows to read, and then we're gonna go into the patron show. So thanks, guys, and I hope that you guys understand the reason why I'm not jumping on the speculation bandwagon when it comes to the Epstein files, because I'm trying to treat it the same way I did Bill Cosby, Harvey Weinstein, and all these other guys. There's just people just see red, and I understand the anger, but I think that we have to be very, very careful and understand that, you know, you're looking at like a bunch of files, and the guy is like every conversation ever. So if he, like, you know, actually ordered a pizza, it's like not the Pizzagate pizzas, but just a normal pizza from Domino's. We don't lump those together. We have to be very careful, because like what we lose if we don't maintain due process for everyone, I think that we stand to lose so much more. So, all right, Richard B. gives us $5 and says, remember that trend of women in tech jobs at social media companies who are posting videos of their do-nothing workdays? Pepperidge Farms remembers. These are the types of women who would be clamoring for this kind of benefit. He's talking about the period benefit.
Yeah.
After all, if you are already getting paid for not working by your employer, then why not also collect additional money for not working from the government? Yes, exactly. Why not? Somebody said Skeletor is in the Epstein files. No, he's not. I looked. So, no, he's in the free and clear. Of course. So, Meredith G gives us a super chow for 5. Thank you, Meredith, and says, for HBR News 540, can someone explain to me how you get trafficked when you got paid and you could leave at any time? Let's be clear about what Epstein was. He was a deal maker and a fixer, and he used the favor bank economy to close his deals, and part of that was having pretty young women around. And those women often used that connection to socially climb. And not all of these women got very far. Yeah, I think that, like, I looked into this too. I don't know what the proportions are, but while there are a number of underage, like under 18 people that were on the island, there's also a lot of grown-ass adults. And so...
Yeah, there were a lot of women that were just hookers, but there were also
they were just
children.
Prostitutes, and he was their pimp. And I don't think that those women get to, you know, cry victim. It's not the same if you're an adult. It's just like the casting couch thing. You know, that's why I was like, well, Harvey Weinstein, he had to do what to get women? Wasn't he like a multi-million-dollar producer guy? He probably didn't have to do anything. Like, he probably just had to say, I'll make you a star. And they were like, okay, what do I got to do? And so, I'm sorry, but this is the thing that, why it bothers me so much, is that the people who are complaining about the fact that I'm not, like, sitting here saying wood chipper and all of this other stuff that you're supposed to say, because I'm like, well, wait a minute, how many of these women wanted to do this? How many of these women were all for this? This is the exact same thing. It's like you're putting the victimhood of grown-ass women over, like, the due process of men, without even looking at what the actual elements of these cases are. And until we know more, I'm not going to make any declarative statements on anybody. And I'll say one other thing about this. that doesn't mean I support this stuff at all. It means that I believe in the justice system, and I believe in, you know, the right of any man or woman for a fair trial, and so that's what this has to be. So yeah, I mean that's it. So
it is. It's important to note, though, voluntary adult prostitutes are not victims. Children cannot volunteer for that.
Yes.
And that's the difference. There are victims from that, but a lot of the outspoken, and that's the other thing I saw people talking about. I guess there was some kind of hearing in Congress, and some of these alleged victims would not talk to Congress. And they wouldn't go in and name names. They wanted it pulled from the Epstein files instead. Well, get it from this information, get it from this information. But the fact is, you know, in the world of humans selling themselves and each other, some of which is trafficking and some of which is just prostitution, voluntary prostitution. In the trafficking end of it, there are women who are involved in the actual trafficking. They're not trafficked, they're trafficking other women. And a lot of them, the way that they get out of accountability when the law comes for them in their country is that they blame whatever men they were working with for grooming them into it, or forcing them, you know, scaring them into it, intimidating them into it. So, you know, the women that they intimidated into it, their victims, are really victims of these men and not victims of them. And the courts buy it all the time. But the reality is there are women who get rich doing this to other women, and then and to girls, that where it's not voluntary, or it can't be voluntary because the victim is underage, right? Then that's definitely a victim. But these women will play victim to get out of going to jail or to get lesser sentences, to stuff like that. And what ends up happening then is the guy gets convicted of crimes he committed and crimes he didn't commit, because he hasn't imposed on that woman. He hasn't trafficked her. He hasn't forced her into anything, but he gets convicted of having done so because she accuses him. And this is something that's known to organizations that fight human trafficking all over the world. It's in the UNICEF report on this. And in the countries where there is the most human trafficking, like where it's epidemic, many of the people involved, many of the people who are making it happen are women, more than men. So yeah, this is not a black and white issue. You know, you want to be mad, you want to carry the outrage, especially when the first thing that we heard about was that children were molested. Of course you want to be angry and outraged. That deserves anger and outrage. That's horrific. And anybody that's not angry and outraged about that, when it's proved true, is something's wrong with them, right? But the rest of this is not a black and white issue. And there needs to be more common sense about how it gets discussed.
All right. Well, thank you for the super chows to Richard and to Meredith, and I hope that you guys understand, like, you know, why I'm trying to handle this the way that I am. And, you know, like I said, the truth is, I want the truth to come out. Like, you know, it is coming out. I don't think it's not happening, despite Pam Bondi's blunders or whatever. But I mean, so what? Like, like I said, I'm willing to leave all that behind as long as we get the truth, and then we get like whatever comes out of that. So, but with that said, we have to wrap the show up. So we're gonna go check out this article and learn a little bit about Galentine's Day, because that's important. And hopefully you guys will join us for that. Again, that's feedthebadger.com/subscribe. What?
Blah.
Blah.
Throw up again. Valentine's Day. Jeez, Pete.
I concur.
So,
Like, what the fuck?
so anyway, but if you guys want to join us
do
for
that
that,
every week and call it Girls' Night.
yeah, they do it all the time. Yeah, it's called being lonely. So anyway, yeah, go to feedthebachelor.com/subscribe to join us on that patron show. But hopefully we'll see you guys there. Thank you to Mike and Hannah for helping me out. Thank you to Mike J for the write-up. And thank you guys most of all for joining us on the show. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News. We will see you next Tuesday.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal
Please give this
machines.
video
They
a
are
like
talking
and
point
subscribe.
machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.
Feed me now! I'm starving. Give me food! Don't make me ask again. Feed me or else.